You're listening to the Super League Pod, coming up on episode 137 of your favourite rugby league podcast. We've got a ton of your feedback and shout-outs, a pile of news from around the world of rugby league. We'll be looking back at last week's games from Super League, as well as previewing rounds 9 and 10 as Easter is upon us. Grab your hip flasks and expect some fun. Strap yourselves in, kids. It's time for your favourite rugby league podcast, the Super League Pod. Right, hello everyone and welcome to episode 137 of the Super League Pod. As always, Tom and Mark are here to bring you all things rugby league, and as I say, Tom and Mark are here to bring you all things rugby league. I don't know where I was going with that, I got a little bit distracted trying to read the side of your pen. I'm joined by Mark, the Wigan fan, in the podcast studio. Mark, how's your week been?
It's been alright, yeah, not bad. I've been up in the northeast with my wife this weekend. We went to Beamish, which is always fun. We saw lots of steam-powered vehicles there. They had extra vehicles on show. I didn't quite know how many cars and trucks and stuff were actually had steam engines in them and still survived to this day. I sort of thought the combustion engine came around quicker maybe than it did, because I was well impressed by fitting a steam engine into a truck. But anyway,
yeah. Well, that is impressive. I'm impressed that you managed to do it.
And then we got some sweets, and then
like these oldie worldy sweets.
They have the sweet shop at Beamish, don't they? It's like one of the things you do. You go to the sweet shop, you go to the old bakery, you go to the old fish and chip shop.
I see. So it wasn't Emma saying, "Look, if you're good while we go around Beamish, I'll get you some sweets at the end."
I was allowed an ice cream as well. I was really good. And then we went to Newcastle, which was it was really nice. We didn't stay out late on the tune, but we had a few beers and some food, and then had a little bit of a walk around the river as the sort of sun was dropping down and the moon was starting to show and stuff, and it was quite nice and picturesque. And then the next day, the Sunday morning, we got up and went down to the riverside, the quayside, and sort of walked a little bit around the city centre, went over the bridges. We actually saw the Millennium Swing Bridge open up and then close.
Brilliant.
Which I wasn't expecting to see. I was like, yeah, it's got that functionality, but how often is it used? And then it was used.
Eat your words, Mark. Eat your words.
The Baltic Modern Art Gallery place, and then drove home. It was a lovely day.
Fantastic.
How about yourself?
I've also had a very good weekend. It's funny you should mention that. We've both been off sort of metropolitan gallivanting, really, haven't we? My Emma and I went to Manchester on Friday night to see the stage play version of The Commitments at the Palace Theatre, and it was absolutely phenomenal. It was I like that sort of music anyway. I like soul, I like the Stevie Wonder, Sam and Dave, that kind of thing. So it really met a need of mine in that respect, and it was superb done. The singers and the talent of the guys that did it was just phenomenal. Like the lead guy in it was impeccable. Everyone was just a really gifted musician, and the show was very, very well done. Prior to that, we'd been out for a bite to eat down at Spinningfields in Manchester as well, which was very good. We went to a place called Menagerie, which was
yes, it looked a little bit.
It was very nice.
Yeah,
it was delicious, and it's probably more to Emma's taste than mine, but I'm starting to learn a foofy drink. Yeah, I did have a cocktail. Well, it was 2-for-1 cocktails in there from 5
I'm not criticising you.
I saw
you with a cocktail.
It was a very nice one. Well, I was going to... Here's the problem I had with it. You could only have... If you were going to take advantage of the 2-for-1 cocktails, they had to be the same cocktail. You couldn't have separate ones. So she had ordered... I think it was called a French Kiss. And I was going to have a jalapeno margarita, which would have been a bit more... I felt a bit more manly having that, slightly. But they were like, no, you can only, you have to have the same one. So obviously being the gentleman that I am.
Do you think they did that on purpose to make you not have the one that they didn't want to bother making?
Well, as the evening progressed, I moved on to lager and she stayed on cocktails. But the food we had there was exceptional as well. And then we went to the theatre after that, and then we went back to Spinning Fields to Oast House.
Oh yeah,
as well. Always a popular choice. We were hopefully going to get to Nathan McAvoy's pub, but we didn't get a chance to. So stayed at the Crown Plaza. It was a beautiful hotel room, very very nice. Trafford Centre on Saturday, mooching about, and saw Willie Isa in there.
Oh right, there you go.
Didn't obviously. I knew the result at that point, so I didn't peck his head. But I did sort of go, "That's Willie Isa." To which I went, "Who?"
Yep.
I went, "Plays for Wigan." She went, "Great." It was a cracking little bit of back and forth.
Yeah.
So the sort of back and forth she and I have about rugby league, to be honest with you. And that was the
Not
weekend.
Familiar with the stylings, myself.
You've seen this, have you?
Yeah.
Okay, so there you go. So I've got it all to look forward to. But no, it's been it was a lovely weekend. Very very good indeed.
Good stuff. Right. Well, we have got a whole host of feedback, unsurprising, and obviously there's been quite a big news week with events going on right up until today, Monday, the day of recording. So we've got all the salary cap stuff with tons of stuff from the listeners. And then, so it's going to be feedback and news heavy probably this week. And then we'll rattle through the games. And we have to do the lottery, the sticking our finger in the air prediction that is Easter Monday's games, as well as the round 9 fixtures. I'm
going to put my neck on the line and say that we both predict correctly. We go over 70% over the weekend.
It's not that we normally do. We're not being exactly setting the world on fire with our predictions this year, are we?
No, but we stick to what we pick on a Monday night, though. That's the thing.
So now we're picking a whole week ahead.
Yeah, so I think we get some.
With a game in between.
Handicapping system in place for those of you that can pick a bit nearer the time when you've seen some 19 start to come out. So, without further ado, who's been getting in touch with us this week?
Right, we're going to start with the where we've been listening section.
Yes.
So Tim Griffiths at Tim G Radio, always a good follow on Twitter there, said, listening to the where I'm listening to section on my way to work this morning in sunny Swindon. So that's location number 1.
Mm-hmm.
All similar-ish part of the world, Cutthroat Jake said, down in Gloucester with work, listening to Super League Pod. This week, the sun is out, the sky is blue, only Warrington can spoil the view, was his little rhyme he did, ahead of Friday night's fixtures. Elliot Wrench said, listening to Super League Pod whilst out hiking.
Guess about a lot,
Didn't tell us where he was hiking, though. I didn't see a picture. Did you see a picture?
I see a lot of posts of Elliot's on Facebook. He puts a load of lovely pictures up about where he's gone, but I don't remember anything specific from last week about where, off the top of my head, but he does get about.
If there's no location next time, I might be scratching that off. You see, I like to know where.
You've been warned.
Plus, I like a walk, so I like to know where people.
You do like a good hike. You like to find those hidden, secluded spots, don't you?
Dom Hodgson said, listening to this week's Super League Pod at Headingley, not a hidden, secluded spot there, where for once the atmosphere matches the DW, and they sent us a picture of an empty Headingley Stadium.
Yes.
Neil McEwen at Neil McEwen 4600 said, listening to this week's pod, great as always, lads. And then he sent us a pic of him in his car. Very early in the morning, it looked like. He wasn't driving, he was pulled over at the side of the road, but good work, Neil. Bob Phillips said, now then, lads, listening to Super League Pod Leeds review / rant again in the big smoke on the trivia. I got 5 out of 10 a personal best.
Bravo, Bob.
The trivia had to be switched up late in the day because of the KFC news.
Yeah.
So I had a trivia thing planned for the first head coach sacking of the year,
right?
Which I've had to bring in now.
Right.
When I was already obviously.
So all the stuff you planned on Lauren Fraser knew has been put to the back burner, and now we're on KFC. I'm not looking forward to trivia this week. Again, I normally try and poke my head around and just see what birthdays have been going on, but I've been.
You won't see what's coming this week.
No, well, I've been off work this week, so I will be. By the time I've been off work today, a bit poorly. So by the time we get to trivia tonight, I don't know what state I'm going to be in.
Mitchell Dart said, listening from the exotic location of my lounge room as I have crumpets and tea for lunch, 100% with the winning captains and coaches. Yay! I never not hear Chris Joints and not think of the wide to west try.
Yeah, well, let's both take a second to talk about what a dickhead we both think Chris Joint is, and for separate reasons.
It's a person I don't know.
I'm saying he's all right. Don't just fucking take the wind out of my sails when I'm going to get up my own arse about Chris fucking Joint.
Well, I'll let you go second then, because it sounds like a Tom Rant's brewing. But for me, it's just we all have these players, don't we? And we talk about this regularly on the show. Who it's Ryan Atkins or Danny Maguire or whoever you love to hate, can't stand him. It makes it worse when he scores the winning try kind of moment. And Chris Joint for me was the player I most hated of the Saints team of the sort of early noughties. I don't know if it's because he was lifting the trophies some of the times and that sort of thing, but Yeah, I just couldn't stand him. And our friend Lucy, who's a Saints fan, who used to occasionally come to games with us, she had a Chris Joint testimonial shirt that she'd always wear, just to wind me up that little bit more, and it used to really piss me off. Yeah, I don't know why. I just couldn't stand him. Him at Saints and Lowe's at Bradford were my two real first hatreds. But what's your Chris Joint?
Well, as much as obviously as a Bradford fan, the wide to west try does stick in my craw somewhat. No, I think it was I'm going to get caught out on the dates here. The 99 grand final 2002, 2003. I forget the year now. Basically, in a grand final, Chris Joint took a voluntary tackle that should have been penalised and wasn't, and Henry Paul could have kicked for a penalty and won it.
Wasn't it the 2002?
Yes, I think it might well have been. We were defending it was the year after we'd beaten you, so that was 2001, so 2002.
Yeah, I don't think it was.
It was absolutely a fucking voluntary tackle.
It wasn't, because he didn't play the ball until he was touched. That's what a voluntary tackle is. You have to play the ball too. You can't just fall to the floor.
He dove to the floor. He didn't fall. He didn't trip up. He dove to the floor.
Which is just surrendering into a tackle.
No, he wasn't surrendering into a tackle because nobody was. They were all stood around watching him fall. Nobody was making any effort to tackle him. He threw himself.
But he didn't get up and play the ball, Tom.
Fuck off! He threw himself to the fucking
But he
deck.
didn't get up and play the ball, Tom.
He's a prick. Moving on.
Yeah, Lee Whitnall. At L. Whitnall said, listening to Super League Pod, and kids walked in as Mark and Tom were discussing Modern Family. Youngest now calling the eldest a pedo. Thanks, Tom.
It's not my fault Mark's a pedo.
Oh, you're a disgrace.
I'm very sorry, Lee. That
I thought this was hilarious. Emma also thought this was her favourite tidbit that I told her from last week's show.
do you know what? Last week is the first week since we've been doing this where I haven't listened I've not had the opportunity to listen back. So I haven't listened.
Whatever?
Yeah. I've always listened to the show.
Seriously?
Yeah. I'll always listen to at least 2/3 of it. So what I'll tend to do is I'll always listen to feedback and shout-outs, and I'll get into the games. And then, if we're getting through... Once it gets to games I've seen and what have you, then I'll probably skip to sort of the wrap-up or the prediction. I'll start to the prediction and then get the wrap-up. Just to, hear how things went.
Wow.
So I'll always listen, but
I wasn't aware you were still so up on the quality control.
I like to hear
myself talk.
I was going to say I'm my own worst critic, but yeah, I do quite like hearing myself talk. But no, I like to just make sure I'm not cocked up anyway. You're pretty much bomb-proof, by the way. But this week was the first week I've not listened back, so I need to go back and listen to how that all came about from the Modern Family thing. I think it was because of the...
It's because of me talking about... I think it's because I mentioned Modern Family, which automatically get...
Oh, of course, the jailbaity daughter that was in it. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, the mid-20s Highland.
Entirely, she's entirely of age, don't we?
Alan Walker, at Alan Paul Walker, said, another top-rate ep from the SLP, yet again killing it for one-sided arguments. One side rants and the other agrees, but not enough to stop him.
Oh, mate, seriously, you don't sit 3 feet away from it when he's going the same colour as the red mug in front of him, and if I disagreed with you, I would.
You were prodding and prodding. You were starting. You were bubbling that up from the
minute you walk through the door.
When I do the edit, the one thing I do is listen to the transitions. Right, so I'll not listen to the bit in the middle, but I'll listen to the transitions either side of playing in the music to make sure I've got the timings right. And you were winding me up from the end of the feedback section. You were poking me about Ferris. Okay, Colin Render said...
But I was right though, wasn't I? I was right about what he got, anyway, carry on.
We'll get to that in a bit. At Colin_Render says, everyone's entitled to their opinion. It would be a boring podcast if we agreed with each other every week. Love a good Mark rant.
Okay, brilliant.
Elliot Wrench said, listening right now, currently mid-Mark rant, Tom's setting him off and boom, brilliant. #passion for #rugby league. Great episode, and I paused after the Leeds Wigan report. It wore me out. Excellent stuff. Tyler Katz fan at Langers38 said, get in on yet another slice of RL goodness, plus the best way to be served pie and salad cream.
It certainly was.
#TMI.
Oh, it was fabulous.
Bernard JKD, we've got a section now on the 9 sort of stuff, really, a little bit. Mm-hmm. But So at Bernard JKD said, alas, RL9s is now only an excuse for clubs to wrap players in cotton wool and play unheralded teens. Auckland Nines was so murdered. Any debate on Nines, be it international or club based, must solve this continual failing, else Nines will stay doomed.
Okay.
Lee Whitnell says, absolutely no one in this country is clamouring for a Nines tournament. I think I've got these in the wrong order. I've missed something out now, haven't I?
I'm not sure.
Oh no, this was just what